Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Thinking as a Coder. This week, something slightly different again. It's been a lot of releases over the last few weeks, and we were looking at the robotics last week with the Arduino Ulvik. And today, we're going to look at Visual Studio Code, usually quite an advanced tool used by programmers, a professional tool. And Microsoft have launched a student version or an education version that I actually think has a lot to offer beyond actually the normal Visual Studio Code, which I do like to use. So I'm going to talk through it. What is it, how we use it, and how it fits into what we've been talking about over the last few weeks. So what we're going to have a little look at now is, let's go to the cam and the screen. And let's have a little look. So as always, we're starting off at the Thinking as a Coder website. And for those of you that are new to this, you can find that at digital.edu.je. And if you go there, you will go to the Thinking as a Coder site. And I've put a link for today's session here under VS Code Edu. And when you click on that, it will take you to the new Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to talk through this, but I'm also going to show you the kind of professional version as well. And you can download the professional version and run it on your computer, which most professionals do. But we also have VS Code.dev, it used to be. Let's see if it's still there. Should probably check that before we did this. There it is. My memory serves me correct. And I'll keep coming back to this because we're going to see some slight differences. We've got some menus down the side here as I zoom in so people can see a little bit better. Some menus down the side that we're not going to see when we look at the education version. These add a level of complexity, and I actually think that this will really help looking at the education version. So once again, digital.edu.je, and you can find the link there for the Visual Studio Code for Education. If you just want to type that in yourself manually or just note it down, then let me just write it down here. It is VS Code Edu, so it looks like a double E there, .com. That is it. That's how we get to this. It's free. And it's, like I said, based on the professional version. And we're going to show you some demos with some HTML web code here, which we've always also talked previously isn't technically code, but it's just HTML language, and some Python code itself, and see how we can use that really easy using the one tool. Now, in the past, we've used things like Trinket, which I absolutely love, and you can go on there and run Trinket, but it has its limitations. And we've also used Trinket HTML as well as some different other microbit Python editors, make code editors. And we're going to see now that I think this new release adds something different. So again, VS Code Edu, so it looks like there's a weird double E in there, .com. And when you first come here, I've not logged in using this account yet. So this is exactly what you'd see when you come in. You get the ability now to do this sign in at the top here. Now, before you sign in, you actually can explore activities. And if you click start a project, it will ask you to try and sign in. So you do have to sign in for that. But you can look at the explore activities before you sign in. And you can see here that there's 5 major tools. There's an introduction, which I'm going to give you now a little bit. I found this a little bit painful, if I'm going to be honest. It was an introduction to VS Code, but I personally think you can get straight into the intro into web development or intro into Python straight away. And then once you've done those, you can have a look at these kind of online games or activities that go into a bit more depth. So let's go and sign in, or go back, and you could press start project. Whichever way you want to do this, you'll have to sign in at some point. Now, if I zoom in massively here, we're going to see something quite interesting. Well, I think it's interesting anyway, that this is a Microsoft product. You can see this at the top here, and yet we've got Microsoft login as you would expect, but we have a Google login as well. And you could argue that Google's a big competitor of Microsoft. So why have they allowed the Google login as well as the Microsoft one? Well, I think it goes to show that Microsoft's interested in education rather than just singling out, because a lot of schools use Microsoft Teams. I know in Jersey, most schools do, but also in Jersey, there are schools that use Google. So we can use both or whichever one that your school uses. So they're not saying you can't use it because you don't use Microsoft. And I think that's a fantastic thing. Now, while I do have a Microsoft work account, I'm just going to show you now with my Google account to show you that you can do this. And then you can just sign in with that account. And if you're over 13, you can agree your own data protection. If you're under 13, you need to use a parental account. So it then comes here to talk about what project that you want to start. I'm going to show you the demos in a minute, but we've used, or thinking as a coder now, we've done quite a few things over the last few weeks or months now. So I think we can go cracking, just have a little play before we go into the tutorials. So the first thing I need to do is, what is the project title? So I'm going to have a little look at Python first. So I'm just going to call this Python test. And it's got some stuff we can have a look at later. I won't look at this today, but we have got web code using JavaScript library, and we've got a text adventure game that we could probably get into, and similar to what I've actually been doing myself in Trinket over the last few weeks and months. So let's have a look at this Python project here. So I gave it a name, nice obvious one saying it's Python, then click on here, create the project, and it'll spin up some libraries, and here it's done that, successfully done. If it's the very first time you've done this, you may want to give it a second because it may look like nothing's happening here, but it's just installing different items. In fact, this is very different to what you might see in the professional version, because what we have here in the side here are libraries already in existence for the other examples and projects that we're going to go through later. So they've given you some code that we can go and use later on. So here's some code later that we could use. So we're going to speed up this kind of process of learning Python or HTML. But for the purpose of today, when you first spin it up, you can kind of ignore these two bits at the top for now, and it will spin up something called main.py, which is when we were using HTML, the kind of default is index.html, and a default for Python is often main.py. It's just the very first program that you would make. And here we have a bit of Python with some comments already in it, or a comment already here using the hashtag. And then we have print welcome to Python test. And what's really nice about this, and very different to the professional version, is we have this play button at the top. Usually, using the professional version of VS Code that we have here, we might have to install a virtual environment. You might have to install different versions of Python. This can get quite complex. For this one, the education version, we just press play. And then this terminal is going to pop up, and it runs the Python code there and then. Really, really useful. So we can get started really quickly. So if I delete this now and do A equals 2, B equals 3, and then I do C equals A times B, as we've done previously, you can also see that we've got some help here. We've already referenced this B variable that we've done. So it's come up in this kind of intelligence text to help us with some other Python codes later on. So that's going to become useful. Things like break I might have wanted to do. It's going to really help us to speed up. Now, this is something that Trinket didn't have for us. So we're already looking to speed things up. Now, if I was to run this, hopefully if you've been with me a while, you might be able to predict what's going to come up. And when we press it, nothing. Why has nothing come up? Because the computer has identified A and B as the variables. C has happened, but we did not tell it to print, spelled correctly. See there, print. And see, this is what I was talking about here. You know if you're going right, because we can have our kind of little finger hovering over the enter key to save us having to press things. So we've got the idea that we can press these things. We have the options that if we're going right, it will come up. And then when we press play, there is the answer of 6. So we've been able to do Python really fast on a free powerful editor online. Now, we've used Trinket and things like that before, but we now have this ability, because it's my program here, to let's close this down entirely. Let's go back to vscodeedu.com and load up that page again, because I accidentally closed my window down or something like that. I can sign back in. It was a slight annoyance that I have to sign back in here, just saying which account I'm on. And what it will remember for me in my projects is there it is. There's my test. So it was saving as I went along. And if I come into it now, we can actually go through and see where my code is. It takes a little while to load, but that's exactly where I left off. And when I press play again, it brings back the terminal, which I absolutely love. So that's fantastic. I just see now that by signing in and signing out of my Google account on one side, I can see now that I've signed out of my live chat area. So just give me a second here, and I'm just going to sign back into that so I can see any chats going on. So please do say hello in the chat if you're new, especially, and we go in and have a look there. So I've just loaded that back up, and I can see all of that now again. So I think this is really, really useful. All of the code that we've used before throughout any of our tests, we can go through and have a look at. So let's go. It's thinking as a coder. We had a go the other day at the adventure game. We also had the Python code here from the website that we had. And this is where we had the Trinket code. Here we had the number here. So let's go to that condition. We can go back to this code that we had here, not the professional version. I can paste it in, and when I press play, B is greater than A, as it said. So it works. So everything that we've been doing throughout all of these sessions still works. So feel free to use the code that we can find on the website that we've been using before. Again, random numbers here, the FizzBuzz question that we had. So here it is, copy and then paste. We can still use all the resources that we've used before, but I think in a more useful example. So input a number, and then we can start to go through with those. So I'm going to explore this, and I'll press stop for now as it's cancelled this. I think this is a really, really nice tool to get cracking. And I'm going to look at their lessons in just a moment. So Python works. Loving it. So let's go back, and what I've not seen as I've been playing it is a nice easy way to get back to the beginning. I'd love a little home screen button that I can click here. I've got my Explore that I have here. I have File and New, and I can do that, but sometimes I kind of want to go back to the home. So you either type it in again or get rid of everything here, and it will go back to the original page. So that was vscode.dev. I'm going to have to go back to this one there. That was the professional version. So again, it seems to be, I'm going to put edu.com in here. So it seems to be still very much a project that's being worked on, but they do have a feedback button inside the code that we can actually put that feedback. I've been talking with somebody that's responsible for launching this on Twitter. I've been giving my feedback that way, but they said that they will, using this give feedback button here, be able to read everything that you give. This is a Microsoft form. I know it well. See, there we go. You have to be over 13 to consent to this form because they might want to talk to you. Am I a student or a learner? No, I'm a teacher. Thinking about your experience today, how I like you to use it for education. I'm extremely likely to use this. Absolutely love it. What would I like to say? A suggestion? What would you like to suggest? Can we have a home button to take me back to my projects? Now, I might be missing that, and maybe someone will get back to me, or maybe I will see that later easily. Your email address, and I will stick that back in over here, although I put it on the screen a few times in the past. It's not something I'm going to hide, but I'm actually going to put my normal email address right on the side for my work so that they can actually get hold of me if they want to. So I'm going to stick that in. There we go. And so I've submitted that page. So thank you for sharing. They said that they're going to read it all. So fantastic, done that. So if you do find something that you want to get from this, add your notes to it, do the feedback. Like I said, they are reading every single comment. So again, I'm going to go to start a project this time. And this time I'm going to go straight for HTML. So it said, do you want to go back to your Python test? Now I'm all right. I've explored that at the moment. I'm going to come in and this time HTML test. So we're just going to have a little play with this. And I'm going to do a HTML5 website. It's just the most common language, and I'm going to create it. Now, I do really like this because it adds in some lovely little starters that I often find it quite time consuming to explain to people a few times. So let's have a look. So it's only looking a little bit busy on the screen right now, like this bit here. It's cutting off the text because I've zoomed in so much to do the explanation today. So I'll move it around, but you would see something more like this. So nice and spaced out with the HTML on the side. I'm just zooming in so you can see the text. So I'm going to reduce this window down a little bit, and I'm going to reduce this window up so I can just see a bit more of the text for us going forward. So let's just do that now. There we go. So I can see the script a little bit better. So what I like about this is it's kind of done the ultimate basic that you need for any HTML page. You've got the doc type HTML at the top, which is a tag to itself, as we've talked in the past. We have the HTML tag, and when you click on this HTML, notice it highlights the end tag as well here. We've got the header, which we've discussed before, which references the title of this, which will come up in the tab at the top here. We've linked a style sheet straight away. Now, we talked about this in one of the previous videos. You can go back to the Space Adventure game and have a look at that video, because we've got a style sheet here already. I'm going to go back and have a little look at that in a moment. And also, we've got the script, if we want to use some JavaScript, as we did in the Space Adventure game again. So it's done some really nice stuff. It's got a comment as well in the HTML to remind you that commenting in HTML is slightly different from Python. We use the chevrons with these exclamation marks. Don't like it in HTML. Complicated, lots of keys to type to do that. And we've got a nice heading 2 tag here to do the title. And what I do quite like is it's suggesting to you that you should use dividers, which we've done in the past, to separate your work out here. So I might come in here and press enter. Then I might do a P tag, which is your paragraph. And as soon as I close it, you can see, like with Trinket, it has closed that tag for me, which is lovely. And hello world, which is the classic thing to write in. And you can see that now appearing in line. So again, we could go back to the Thinking as a Coder sessions that we've done before and the adventure game that we've had a look at before, and use this code from Trinket to go straight in and do this, I think, more impressive looking one. Because if we go back to part 3 here in Trinket from the other week, we can see that I have my code in the Python here, but we've got the window, which is quite, it's got all the stuff, the Trinket, it's just not well set out. So when we're looking at all of these items, we can go through and have a little look at them. And we also looked at the Space Adventure game in HTML and JavaScript here, and I'm going to copy and paste this in to see what it looks like. So I went through all of this, went through the styles, went through all of these items here. So let's copy and paste some of this stuff out. Here is the updated image concept that we had. So I'm going to copy all of this. Oh, not to undo it, copy it. I'm going to come back to the VS Code and I'm going to paste over the top of this. Give it a second, and we're starting to see our items. Now, it's not looking good at the moment because I still need to have all my CSS and my JavaScript, but we can start to see now that we're having virtually the same experience. Now, these buttons look bad because I can come back to my code guide I didn't have any of this style there. So I'm going to copy all of that style. I'm going to come into this style sheet that's been written for me, and I'm going to paste into it, remembering that the links have already been established for me here in the HTML. So styles, usually we have style. I'm intrigued by the styles. And we can come in here and then just check that in the code, remember I said style and actually it's styles. So that's a unique thing that I might feed back. I've just been taught, maybe I've been taught wrong, but I've always been taught that it's style.css. If it's styles, I'm just going to change that header there. And then suddenly everything has changed. So if things are broken, it's just because maybe that has happened there. Now, we might find it easier if you like what I say with style. We could come in here and we could rename that styles without it and press enter, and then the same thing will happen as happened before when I come into here, that it should pick this up in a moment when it needs maybe refreshed. So let me just refresh that page and let's see how it goes. In fact, actually, yeah, that should be fine. Style and styles. I'm just going to refresh that page and see if it picks it up now. There you go, it's picked it up. So it seems that it's probably easier to keep what they call, so I'm going to rename that back to styles, and I'm going to have a look at what I do in all my code now going forward, and probably easier to keep that naming reference because I'm going to use this a lot, and I think it's going to be good to keep using the examples that they give in Microsoft's Visual Studio Code that we're going to have a look at in a moment, rather than all that. The only weird thing I'm having a look at now is this link. Now, whether or not this link is now broken, I'm going to have a quick look at that. So let me just minus out a little bit so I can grab the link. Let me just see if this link to that image still exists, because that might be, nope, the image still exists. So I will play around and see why that is broken, whether that's an error and you have to approve something to allow it to see the image here, but I'll play around with that and see what the issue is and maybe ask the person that I've been dealing with at Microsoft to be able to do that. So I might put that into the suggestion, but before I do that, I will test to see it's not a human error and that I've done something wrong myself. So again, we've been able to deal here with Python very, very easily. And we've now got HTML5 with a lovely little window, which I find a little bit better. Now, one of the things I've asked already is whether or not I can expand this view. So let's have a little look here, because what I can do when I'm using the adult version of VS Code here is that I can open this window in a full browser. Now, at the moment, we might just want to make that wider and maybe reduce this down a little bit so we can have that more full page look that we're seeing here. But I've asked to see if there can be a lovely little right click to open in browser as an option there so we can test it in another tab while we're working. But it may well be that it's a closed environment and we can't do it that way, but it's lovely no matter. So I will find out and test a little bit more why that image isn't coming up, but it does work, as we've just seen there. The image does exist, and it works when we were using the Python or Trinket editor in HTML. The Trinket editor in HTML. So I'll have a little play with that. So our previous sessions and previous work, you can continue in much of the same way. So let's now have a look at what Microsoft is offering in their lessons. So again, not quite a home button that I can see. Maybe if I tap that, profile settings. No, I can't see something unless it's obvious. If you can see something yourself, if you're playing around with it, please do message in the chat about where you can find it. But I've played with this only for a few hours so far, and I haven't seen it yet. So VS Code Edu, I'm getting used to typing that out, .com. And this time I'm going to explore the activities. So we've looked at Python and HTML. I'm going to save these spooky manna and fortune tellers for another session, perhaps. So I'm going to go to Python because I think it's the most important one for us as Think as a Coder. It says here that it's a 19-hour course, so lots of stuff here. It's run by Dr. Corey Bart here from America, and these are the resources that go through: core ideas, excellent; functions, if statements, structures, for sequences, nesting, and time. Now, these are all excellent. Just move that to the side because my head is massively blocking that. These are all areas that we absolutely need to know for the Thinking as a Coder exam. So I think going through this is an excellent way of reaffirming what we've already had a look at. You can go straight in and start the course. Again, because I signed in, it doesn't seem to remember your session. This may boot me out of the chat again on the other side, so I will keep a note of that and just see if it does. I think I've survived. I can see it on my other screen on the other side. And then when we come in, there's a lot going to go on here. So again, be patient about your internet connection. What I haven't mentioned, which I think is excellent while this goes on, is it works on your phone as well. So if you've got an iPad or a tablet or just your phone, you can do this on here. I mean, yes, it's going to be a little bit finicky, but I think actually that's a fantastic addition. And it's just an excuse for me to show off my S24, I think. So I just got it yesterday and I'm very loving it already. But you can use your phone and you can use your iPad, which I think is exceptional. Always been very hard to use an iPad for coding, and I think this will help break that issue. So again, we've got these core ideas, break them up on the side into their fundamentals. And that's exactly what you do. You can either start here or you can fast forward different areas if you've already done it. So we have talked in length about the fundamentals, but I will just start it to see what it says. And we've got these well laid out lessons. There's a lot of time that's gone into all of these. And then we've got our check our understanding. What is computer science about? The science of computers, problem solving with programming, or programming. I think it's going to be that one. There we go. I'm correct. Just as well. Phew. So you should read these things through, or maybe you can do what I do quite often with these kind of longer sessions, is if you already kind of know the fundamentals, whip through to the questions, see if you get it right. If you get it wrong, then you can go back and see what actually it was. So the good thing to do is go through all 19 hours, nice and slowly and softly, but you can fast forward, I think, a little bit here. We've got all these different lessons. I'm not going to talk about user interactions. Let's see what it says about maths, or math in America. 25-minute session. Not going to go through it all here. And computers are good at math. Oh, that's already irritating me, but no, it's an American thing, maths, but we'll forgive them for this. Then we go through. Maybe I should press back. Maybe I should do the feedback and say maths. But no, I won't. That's taking the mickey. So here we have all the symbols that we're used to seeing, division, exponentials, things that we actually haven't looked at. We haven't talked about modulo, for example. And then we can go back and have a go. So here it's saying, here's the code. We can copy it and paste it directly in and press play to go along with this, running the file as it's doing now. And it's doing it. Ran successfully, feedback. Or you can try and type it in yourself as you go along. I mean, I think you should type it in as you go along, because that's part of the process, is learning this. But we can keep going through. Now, I'm not going to take you through all these sessions. I'm just going to show you that this is a well-structured set of lessons down the side, and we can go and have a go at the different parts. If you feel that you know these bits, then you then skip them. But if you're unsure what sequences are, what nesting is, what time means here, we can go into these and have a look at these more in depth. And then it looks like we've got while conditions, while true, or while something else. We've talked about that in the past. And then we have different ways, more advanced ways of accessing the loops that we haven't talked about in the past. So there's lots going on here, as well as things like sorting and searching that I know we do in computer science in GCSE level. So here we have some data which is in an order, but it's not sorted. And we can use different commands like sorted. We can use different types of searches. Bubble sort is a very famous sorting algorithm that is very interesting for people to know. And we can already see now that we're looking at this code here that we're starting to get more advanced. So I feel that it's worth going ahead to say, actually, no, I don't get what this is saying, and then working your way back until you get to it. So ideally, 19 hours, go through each and every part, but we can fast forward to bits and see where you're at now that we've done a couple of months of this thinking like a coder. So I really do think that this is a very, very useful tool. I think this is a brilliant introduction to Python as well. And it's something that I'm going to be using with adults, in fact, because when you're learning a new code, you absolutely starting at the beginning. So just because it's called an education version here on VS Code, don't think of it in that way. VS Code is a professional tool. I've shown you it here. Absolutely professional tool. People use it all the time. And I really like that Microsoft has brought a lot of this way more accessible to you. And talking about accessibility, it's got little details like this accessibility reader at the top. So if you struggle to read things with accuracy, or you need it read out to you, you can press this button here and you can actually use Immersive Reader, which is a Microsoft tool if you're used to using it, and you can have this read out as it's doing to me right now, but my speakers are down. You can have it read out the page. So there's lots of accessibility tools that aren't baked into the professional version, as well as that play and do example that you saw nicely laid out. I think this is a great way to start, and I'll be honest, I think I'm going to be using this now more than I'm going to be using things like Trinket. Trinket was lovely, but I now am able to save my work using my hopefully school account, but you have to talk to your schools about that, but also my personal Gmail account to now work my way through this session anywhere, anytime, and as I said, excuse to show it again, on any device. And I think that is phenomenal. Let's also have a look at the HTML one as well. So again, it's a little bit annoying that there's an Edu one. I mean, actually, I'm going to do this now. If I delete at the top here, you can't quite see this because it's quite small. I've done the VS Code /edu. Let's see if that takes me to the place. If it does, I'll zoom in and show that. Oh, is it going to? Or isn't it? Yes, it has. There we go. So maybe that's an easier way of doing it. While VS Code Edu, which I put here, is the official domain name, vscode.dev, which is what you see when you're working, /edu, is actually another way of getting to this program. And the reason why you might want to use that, or at least understand that, is that when we were in our activities before, HTML text, if I load into it, at the top here, which you can't quite see and I can't zoom into very well, is, well, in fact, what I could do is take a little screen grab of this. Here we go. Hopefully that will come down here. Double tap it up. And then can I zoom in on that any bigger? There we go. Look at that. Love a Mac. So when you're working in the address bar, it doesn't use vscodeedu.com. It uses the kind of like professional vscode.dev, and it has this /edu. So if you delete everything after that, as I was doing before, that could be a quick way of getting to your home screen. So in the top there, everything after the edu, and then I pressed enter, and I'll probably use that, or I don't know, it's maybe just as quick to type it in. I don't know. You make your own choice. Let's go back to explore the activities. And we've got the intro into web development. And much the same way as before, this is a 16-hour one split across two of these tutors. One seems to be a school, both school teachers actually, going through that. And so these two women have gone through the initial, again, units. I'm just going to go through and start the course. And I'm going to have a look at what it looks like on the side. And again, I think we get an idea of what it's asking us to do on the side, the web and web development in general, brief history of the internet or the web specifically, browsers, all those kind of things all the way through, the structure of tags and what they are. So let's have a little look at that one. And we've talked about this previously. So this is nice if you're new to HTML and you haven't quite done it, a whole little bit about it. Then we're going into the basics here of HTML, bold and strong. So this is going to go through some nice tags like the B tag, as we've talked, strong as well. And again here, while I make that a little bit smaller, and I'm perhaps just going to zoom out one on this so I can see some stuff in here. I can copy this code. I can place it in to there. So that's that. Press play. Now I'm going to be intrigued to see this. Oh, so that's interesting. So here it's not made me do all of the HTML tags. I don't know how I feel about that, actually. I think that you should have the entire code. So I think personally, if I go to VS Code Edu, I think personally, always making me sign in there, that's definitely going to be a suggestion to try and remember me a little bit more easily. And I definitely think here, when I was looking at my projects in my HTML test, I've got I don't know, maybe you can put in the comments how you feel. I feel you should always have to have this and then place in your bold tag here, for example, in the right place. But I suppose if you're learning first, it is good to learn the tags without the irritation of having everything else. But you can't do this without having those HTML and body tags somewhere, and they've kind of been hidden from you at this point. So it's good to show that, you know, and I could change that B to U. And if I change the B to U there, I have to do it on the other side. And then let's see if that does it here. I press play, I think. So there's no instant refresh like there was before. I have to press play and it's not done an underline. That's interesting. So it looks like it's only set up to show you exactly the underline. So that's interesting. So I'm going to have a little play with that because that should have replaced this text in bold. It failed to show the HTML. Oh, okay. I'll have a look at that. Oh, there we go. See, I was wrong all the time. They have listened to me, and I should really look ahead. So it was saying that this is the important code, but this page will not run unless it's in the HTML. So I'm glad I ranted off like that because they do agree that we should be able to place the code in here, press play, and now we're not getting that error message. So that is text that is bold. That is text that is strong. And now if I come in to change the B to a U for our underline, there we go. I've got my underlining in there. Okay, so that shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, excellent. It's underlined that part. So excellent. That does confirm what I said, that I believe you shouldn't just be able to write this off the cuff, which they agree with. They've put it inside the exact parts that you need. So I do fully endorse that way of doing it. So again, we've got other tags like italics and emphasis, different things that we can play around with, going all the way through to introducing cascading style sheets. What is a CSS? And we talked about that in previous sessions, all the way through. Does it talk about JavaScript? Yes, in Unit 9, we go through the whole shebang. So no wonder it's 16 hours. And to be honest, if I do a bit of quick mental calculation, 19 hours of Python plus 16 hours of HTML. So we've got there 35 hours of solid work. That is, I think, as many IT lessons as you would get in a term for an hour a week. So I think they probably thought that out very well. And this could be the savior for a lot of schools or teachers thinking they don't know what to do and how to do it. I think this is a fantastic way to do it. And for me, that is a whole year's worth of work laid out for a teacher. But for us thinking as a coders that are used to doing things like this, I think you could whip through this relatively quickly. Now, I do think it's worth going through these lessons, whether you fast forward them or not, that's up to you. But when we come back to have a brief look at something that I'll probably go through in the sessions to follow, Again, we need that /edu that I'm going to get used to now. I might put that in my bookmarks at the top here. When I go to explore the activities again, and I go into the coding activities, I've only got these two massive ones left. There's a 30-minuter and there's a 70-minuter. Now, when I come into this one and start it, the reason why it's 30 minutes when I had a play the other day, I have a slight, I don't know how I feel about this. When I go to start this one, we've got what we need to do, well thought out lessons, well thought out stuff that we can go through. It does add its own libraries later on that aren't necessarily full code. So I'll talk about that more when I go through this in detail. But we have the ability here to copy some code, follow things as we go. I think you should learn to write it yourself. I don't know how I feel about the copy and paste, but it's there in case, I suppose, people are struggling to do stuff. Here we go. And I've got those. So there we are. I've got all my code. Press next. And then at the bottom, we have welcome to the Oracle Orb. I'll zoom in on that a little bit. Which are please ask a question. And we're going through to inputting these concepts in here. What is it going to rain? That's a great question. Let me think about this one because that's all we've got to, and that's all it does. So at the moment, we're just expressing the concept that we know how to do an input and then an output, and then it's going to move on and talk through the random responses. We've talked about random values and maths and stuff like that. So seeing how we go. So hello, thank you for entering the chat. I know it's towards the end here, but you can go back and at any time watch this session going through. So I think, and I'm going to wrap it up here today, more or less on time. I think that this is a fantastic tool. It's a reminder that this is not something that is insignificant. Many people around the world use Visual Studio Code. While there is an online editor for this, if I could go to VS Code and just Google it in general and go to the main website, again, it's going to tell me to download it for Mac because I'm on a Mac, or it will download on Windows, and you can download the full program, and that's where most people live. But the world is moving online. And so I love this concept. Now, there are some things you cannot do on the online editor that you have to do on the main program. But for the vast majority of stuff, and the fact that they've got this play button that we were looking at here for doing this code means that a lot of those problems will be removed for you. So I'm going to have a little look at some of the things that we found today with the errors. Hi, Adam. How are you doing? And I'm going to have a go through, and I think I'm going to go through both, see if I can get through both of them. I'll try and time it next week if I go back to where that session was. I kind of lost it now. The two that we looked at now were the kind of mystical question maker that we were having a look at here. If we look at the activities, see if I can get through that one. I may just go straight into the Spooky Manor, which is an adventure-based game because it's similar to the things that we were doing in the previous sessions. So if you're late to today, do just go back, just press the rewind button and go through and have another look. Here every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. As I mentioned in the previous, now you're back at school. I was going to give it this week, and I'm going to now go to the schools, especially Larokia, and ask those people that want to do the online exam if they want to do it before the summer ends. And we'll go through some example quizzes. And for those people that are wondering what I'm talking about, go to Digital Jersey Online or digital.edu.je that we have here, and you will go to the homepage of Thinking as a Coder. And on the live link, we've got all the videos that we've done up until today, starting with the explanation of what Thinking of a Coder is, all the way through to some of the stuff you would need to have an online exam that's GCSE level that you can do completely remotely and on your own. So do have a little look at that. Come back next Tuesday and we'll have another little play with those examples, see how good they are, or have a play yourself now and dabble around. But I think the VS Code for Education is a total winner. So thanks for listening. See you next time at Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Always worth a subscribe and a like. Always forget to do that right at the end. And again, please do comment early on and ask questions. Even if it's afterwards, I'll look at comments and try and add in anything that people are suggesting. So bye for now, and I'll say goodbye. Got my screen, that is the coders ending. Hopefully, see you next week. Bye for now.